What's your name? Kenneth Gibson? Will you give yourself to this program? Yes, sir.
There is nothing that you wouldn't do for this country. You have the strength to do what's necessary.
How is he?
He's prepped.
Oh, that has healed well.
What do you think that we do out there, Doc?
So, one of the things I really enjoyed about the movie is that even though the character of Jason Bourne isn't necessarily in it, it follows the aftermath and the consequences of all of his actions from the previous films.
Sure.
Now, you've done a lot of really cool stuff in all the different films you've been in. If you could see a film about the aftermath and the consequences of a character you've played, just to kind of see what ended up happening, which one would you like to kind of follow up on?
Oh, wow. I don't know. It's a really tough question because this is a new thing. Most Hollywood kind of reboots something,
Right.
Or they put a sequel or prequel or whatever the heck it is to it. This is sort of, and it's not a reinvention. It's just sort of like, hey, let's just make the world a little bit bigger and it coexist together at the same time as Ultimatum. So it's kind of hard to answer, because to me, I don't know any other franchises that have done that.
Right.
So I don't know. It's hard to think. I really don't like to watch anything I've done. So
Really?
Yeah. So that's a really difficult one to answer.
Oh, I just wanted to try to ask something that no one's been asking all day.
Yeah, it's a good one though.
Matt Damon has come out recently saying that he would be open to coming out and joining the fifth one. In your dream best case scenario, what do you think that would be like? What do you think Aaron and Jason could interact on camera together?
Oh wow, I think them pitted against each other at first, and then probably teaming up to go against the bad guys.
Right. So there'd be a little kind of hesitation at first.
I
There'd
think
be a
so.
little
I think that would be the
heads.
most interesting way
Right.
to go about it. But that's I think that's a chat room conversation. Not
Right, yeah,
that's what I think.
Well, I look forward to that one, though. But you've done so many incredible stunts throughout all your films, whether it be SWAT or The Hurt Locker or The Town or The Avengers, obviously The Bourne Legacy.
Yeah.
Thinking about all the different stunts that you've done, which one do you think would surprise audiences about how surprisingly easy it was, and which one would surprise audiences about how surprisingly difficult it was?
Here's the better way I think to answer it is I think it's the fights that are the most dangerous. It seems silly, even though you're fighting with a stunt guy and he knows what he's doing. But that's where you really get injured. That's where you get banged up most. I jumped off all these buildings and did all these things, and just running and fighting. Mostly running is actually probably the most dangerous thing
Really?
to do on
So see,
camera.
that's surprising. That's
Because you're
something-
doing it all day long. It's boom, you pull a hamstring, your knee twist, or then it takes an injury, you can't even run anymore.
Right.
You're out. You're
Right.
done. So that's probably the most dangerous thing, to be honest. I think Tom agrees. It's one of the same things. Like it's just running
Right.
is probably the most dangerous thing you can do.
Right. Well, to give me the wrap, Jeremy, it's an absolute honor, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to see you again. Congratulations on the movie.
Jason Bourne was the tip of the iceberg.
It's Aaron Cross. We have never seen evaluations like this. He's Treadstone without the inconsistency.
I've never met anybody in the program.
So how many of us are there?
You ask too many questions.
Jason Bourne is in Manhattan. Confirmed.
What?
That's all I have. Gotta go.
To me, one of the most interesting things about the movie is the fact that even though obviously Jason Bourne isn't in it, it follows the aftermath and the consequences of his actions from the past three films. So I was thinking, you've played such cool characters. If you could see a film about the actions and the consequences of the actions of some of your past characters, which particular character would you like to see?
Wow, that's a fun. I think that I think I'd have to go with Death to Smoochie. I think that the consequences of his actions are probably still causing a tsunami of
Right.
of positive impact on children everywhere.
God, that's such an amazing movie, by the way. That's such an incredible movie. One of the things I loved was watching your character kind of start to realize that Aaron is more than you expected that he would ever be. He's bringing more to the table than you ever thought that he would. So I was wondering who's a co-star that you've had that has brought more to a role than you ever expected that co-star ever would.
Let's see. That's a funny one.
I'm trying to ask stuff that hasn't been asked 10,000
Yes,
times.
that's a good idea. Well, on a more serious note, I did this little movie called Down in the Valley, and I worked with Evan Rachel Wood, who was just a kid at the time. She was only 16 at the time, 16 or 17, and I was kind of like, oh my God, this girl's really good. Like, a major serious actress, like, and it kind of blew me away because I was kind of prepared to work with a kid, and now she's all
Or I would say, yeah, she's
grown up
she's
and
still
become a
doing
great
incredible
actress.
job.
Yeah, so
Right.
I was right, but I remember that was quite shocking at the time to find someone that young.
Right.
It was good. Even I did a movie with Ben Stiller, and I kind of like, I knew he was gonna be funny, but I thought he was, I was really impressed with what a great actor Ben is. He's like, he's just like,
Keeping the faith is great.
yeah,
man.
yeah. He's but it's cool when you know someone's good, but when you're actually working with them, you're like, wow, you're even better than I thought
Right.
you were. That's always
That's a
yeah,
good
he's
sensation.
great. He's great.
You have a great line in the movie where you say, "I have my job because I have the strength to do what is necessary," which I thought was just a really cool idea. If you're going to be an actor, if you're going to have this job, what is that necessary thing you feel that you're going to have the strength in order to be able to do?
You have to believe that you can sit through 40 junket interviews in the same day. If you don't believe that you can do that, this is not the business for you.
That's why I'm trying to ask
Yeah,
stuff that
exactly.
not everyone's asking, man. Because I know these things can get repetitive.
No, I'm kidding. I think, I don't know. I guess you gotta actually believe that that you're not gonna bore the pants off of people or something. I don't know.
I feel like that first answer is a genuine
Yeah,
answer. I
yeah.
feel like that's the real one. Obviously, this is a much smarter than average action movie. You know, a lot of movies aren't made like this, and you take movies that are smarter than your average movie. When you're reading a script and you get 15 pages in, what is an attribute that a script would have to make you put it down and stop reading, and what does a script have to make you keep reading?
Yeah, I think let's just forget bad writing. Bad writing, obviously, you just know right away. But sometimes I think even when something's well written, you can have the experience of looking at it and go, well, I think I've seen this film a lot of times. This is I can see the film in my head. I've seen that film before. I'm not feeling pulled into this in a special way or in an original way. On the flip side, I think sometimes, at the best, sometimes you're reading something and you instantly know that it's not a story you've seen before, or a character is written in a way that you're just sucked into their worldview, or there's an idea in it. I think in this case, for me, Tony, I have really liked Tony Gilroy's films. I've thought Tony really sticks a fork in some ideas that I think are interesting, like especially the idea of like how deep have corporations inserted themselves into our lives? Are they running us, or are they running our government?
Right.
If you look at Michael Clayton and Duplicity, and even in this, he's really, I think he doesn't really traffic in individual heroes and villains. He kind of looks at the villainy of this system that causes ethical compromises in people, and so I kind of was looking for that through this when I read it, and the more I read it, the more I started going, he's doing it again. He's got this this thread pulling through it, and that's what pulled me into this one, really.
Right, and it's incredible. And then, Mr. Norton, it's always an honor to talk with
Thanks,
you. And
man.
hopefully this one stood out for you.
Yes, those were good questions.
I appreciate it. Thank you so
My
much.
brain turned on.
People, listen up. This is a national security emergency.
The FBI is investigating links between Treadstone and this man, Jason Bourne.
I go down for this, Mark. You were given a Ferrari, and your people treated it like a lawnmower.
You're asking me to wipe the most valuable assets we've ever put in the field.
You're gonna start to consider the magnitude of what we're facing if this moves sideways on us?
Meaning what?
Meaning we will burn the program to the ground.
So I gotta say, what I love about this movie is that even though Jason Bourne technically really isn't in it, it follows the consequences and the aftermath of his actions from the previous films. So thinking about all the cool characters you've played, if you could have a movie made about the consequences and the aftermath of the actions of one of your past characters, which one would you like to see kind of how things turned out based off what you did in a movie?
Gosh, in a movie, well, I played Blanche Dubois on stage, and things don't end up very well for her at the end. She ends up being taken to a hospital for people who are like mentally unwell.
Right.
So I always wondered if she seduced the doctor when she got there and managed to get out.
That would be interesting.
Yeah,
See, I think
yeah.
that's kind of this is a very cool, interesting concept. Like you can follow up a lot of times to kind of see,
Yeah.
how people's actions follow up.
Yeah.
And I thought, one of the things I thought was interesting was that the revelation that you have about the government's ability to really kind of snoop into your personal business and discover things. When you got into this job and you discovered that there's people whose job it is to snoop into your personal life, like how do you handle a revelation like that? How do you deal with that?
I was actually very unsurprised by the storyline in terms of the degree to which the government can snoop on us. I've always felt like the government can snoop on us and find out every single detail of our life. I mean, I don't think that's science fiction. I think that's just kind of true, and it's just true.
Right.
I mean, do I walk around in a state of paranoia? No. Yes. No, I don't.
But even though, obviously to a different degree, that's kind of something that happens with, if paparazzi's following you around, there are people whose job it is to like snoop into your personal life and discover things. And, how do you deal with that aspect of all of this?
Oh, I don't really get followed around very much by paparazzi.
Oh, really?
No, not really.
Obviously one of the things was great was watching you and Jeremy kind of discover how many people you think are on your team can so quickly turn against you and can be on the other side. Is that something as an actor that you ever have to worry about when you meet people, kind of worrying about what their ulterior motives may be, whether or not they're ever going to actually turn against you?
I mean, you just use your instinct with people when you're working with them, and it's very rare that I've worked with someone who isn't kind of kind and thoughtful. It hasn't really happened to me that often. I mean, there are crazy people who don't mean to be mean, but they're just crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's such an honor to meet you, and
No.
thank you so much, and
Okay.
congratulations.
Hey, look, it's me. Do you want to live? Because I want to live.
You think that Jason Bourne was the whole story? There's a lot more going on here.
You've had alterations to 2 different chromosomes. It's the most exciting development in the history of the science.
Well, I'm not just a science project, Doc.
I gave them everything. We both did.